Hey, what's up? So I have someone that I know who works at Waymo, and he asked me for my take on the company. I think a question that a lot of employees are asking is when are we going to IPO? Because everyone at Waymo has a lot of paper money, soft currency locked up, and they want to use that to buy houses and to eat. So the more I dug into this, there are three sort of silos of discourse around the company and autonomous vehicles. So let me say the first silo, I call it the bullish silo. It's the ARK Invests, the VC firms like A16Z, Rethink X. They come up with a lot of reports on how the technological costs are going to plummet. And then they also have moral imperatives. They say the government is essentially committing a moral crime by not allowing autonomous vehicles to propagate everywhere. And I think that is a little bit self-serving, but they're also ignoring the operational realities of the business. I think the second silo of discourse is from the mainstream media, like the New York Times, Jim Cramer, and they just focus on the cool factor of it. And it's light and fluffy. They talk about the consumer experience. I have no problem with this. And then finally, which is my favorite sort of area of discourse, my favorite silo is the cautious silo. And this is really like very technically sound engineering discussions about safety and interventions per mile. And I see this on Reddit, the work of Missy Cummings. Um, Also, in the past decade, one of my colleagues at Rand wrote about how essentially Waymo needs to drive hundreds of millions of miles more to just be able to prove that they're actually safer than a human driver. They've only driven, I think, 100 million miles, and they need to drive hundreds of millions of miles. So uh, this is sort of my take on Waymo, and I think the actual, the all these silos of discourse are missing the forest for the trees. I think there's actually a much darker uh, kind of story behind this, and it's about a broken economic promise, a promise to the markets, to employees, and to investors. And I think um, what Waymo represents is a class of companies that I call Peter Pan companies. They're too old or too big to essentially be startups. They lose too much money every year, hundreds of millions, and in the case of Waymo, multiple billions of dollars every year in losses to go public. And they're kind of stuck in a little bit of a neverland and they're being subsidized by larger parent companies like Alphabet and Microsoft. And so I want to talk about why these Peter Pan companies exist, why the system is kind of broken, why they're essentially economic aberrations, which is just a polite term for saying that they're a freak of nature. They exist outside the laws of supply and demand, but for a reason. And so I go into those reasons. And I also talk about what you can do if you are an employee or an investor, or just potentially looking to understand the dynamics of these companies. I hope you find this informative.